Hello, everybody. Great to be here. So my name's Grant Hayward. I've got a small company called Collaborant, but I also work with a social enterprise, a community interest company called OSEP, OSEP CIC. Sam will introduce herself in a moment, Sam Kandiyali. We just thought we'd give you a little bit of context though and explain the background. Richard just touched on it there, but a group of us have come together through B4 really. So there's myself, Sam, Steve Cook of Institution, Mike Jennings of Jennings, and Dominic Hare of Blenheim. And through the B4 network, we really want to use it as a platform to help businesses understand the ways that they can have a lot more positive impact, really understanding what business is about aside from making money. Now, if you haven't seen any of the previous episodes, I'd suggest you take a look on the B4 website or their YouTube channel. So that's the context. We'll talk a little bit more about the graphic that Richard mentioned, but Sam, great to be doing this with you. Do you want to just give us a bit of background about Target generally, just as a company and perhaps its interest in this area?
Yeah, sure. So I'm a director of Target PR. We're a communications agency. We've actually been going for more than 40 years now, and I've been with the organisation for half of its lifetime. And obviously over that time, it's had to adapt and evolve. But one thing that's kind of remained true, I suppose, is our ethos and our commitment really to doing things the right way. And I suppose then, more recently, we thought about that in a bit more depth and a bit more seriously. So as a team, we came together and kind of discussed some of the kind of bigger global issues and things that we felt really passionate about. And as a group, we were like, well, we want to try and make a difference. We want to try and make the world a better place. And that sounds kind of a bit grand and substantial. And how can we do that? We're a small agency. There's a team of 10 of us. We're PR professionals. How can we make that kind of contribution? But when we kind of stopped and thought about it, we thought, well, actually, we can use our expertise, our communications expertise, to help other organisations be a force for good. So to help them really, we believe that with a clear sense of purpose, they can position social value at the heart of the organisation. And we can support organisations by helping them to define their purpose, to articulate it, to embed it in their organisations, and then communicate it to the people that it matters to most. So that's what we're really all about. But as part of that process, obviously, that's made us stop and look at us ourselves. It's all very well and good if we're telling other organisations to do this, but actually, we need to walk the talk, as it were, and practice what we preach. And it's a bit of a kind of hands up here, in that we're by no means perfect, and we're very much at the early stages of this journey. It's kind of work in progress, but I suppose we wanted to share what we're currently doing and how we're setting about what we're doing. I think to give others hopefully a little bit of inspiration, because I think lots of people think about maybe purpose or ESG and think, maybe that's not for me, maybe that's for the big corporates, or maybe you need lots of money in order to do that, or you need a big team to do that. And actually, I think any organisation can make some steps to be a better business. And that's really what this is all about.
Brilliant. Fantastic. So what we'll do then is, as we touched on before, between us, we were looking at this. And I think that it's probably important for us to say as well, I think we'll all agree that none of this is really new. As you said, you used the word evolve, and I think business has definitely been evolving. And now I've been in this space in particular, focused for the last 12 years or so, I suppose. And I think there was definitely there'd been a shift. There'd been a shift of businesses, changing the way they operate and really starting to question and be questioned about the way they're operating. But I think what we've seen is this last year or so has accelerated that shift, hasn't it, really? I think the other thing that I know the group of us under this Real Meaning of Business very keen to do is that we're not trying to tell people how to run their businesses. What we're saying is that we recognize out there's some businesses doing some great stuff, and it's as much about bringing examples like yours and others to the B4 network to really share and learn from each other. And I think what we thought was that there's some good stuff going on, but some businesses are saying, well, how can I do this better? And we just come up with this model that I'll pop up on the screen in a second. And the model really is a way of helping businesses look at all elements of their business. So quite often, companies will think about bit of recycling, environmentally responsible, or perhaps doing something in the community. And what we're saying is we can help businesses understand all the different ways in which. So I'll just bring up on the screen the graphic that we come up with between us. So hopefully people can see that. Is that right? Yeah.
That's good. Yeah.
Great. Okay, good. So really, just to give you an overview, what we're going to do, don't worry, this is probably looks a bit noisy, but we'll focus in on some of these areas. And what we've actually done with the model is to relate it. Sam, you and I spent a little bit of time together talking through this, and Target have really sort of looked at the different themes or pillars, whichever way you want to call it, and really sort of talk, just sort of put some examples down of the sorts of stuff you're doing. So what we're saying is that, and what we've done is we've looked at, so out there are other models. So the likes of the B Corp movement, for instance, or Blueprint for Better Business, they all have sort of different parts, areas that you can focus on. So in our situation here, we've come up with these names or words. We're going to go through them one by one now very briefly, just to give a couple of examples. The other thing to note really is you'll see some are highlighted in black, which are things that Target PR are working on at the moment, and the blue ones are probably more the areas that you're looking to develop. And I think you made a really good point before, Sam. You know, I think even those businesses that are held up as being extremely ethical and extremely responsible, they would be the first to say they're not perfect, and it's a work in progress really. So anyway, and the aim for this is that we're looking to share this tool, I suppose, and help businesses think about the ways in which they are working in these particular aspects of the businesses or looking to develop it. So is there anything else you want to say about this before we actually jump in, Sam?
No, happy to jump in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we move on to the first, and I knew that was going to happen, I'm sharing screen, but there we go. Okay, so taking the first pillar, for want of a better description, so people, do you want to just sort of talk us through perhaps your thinking here, Sam?
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess, you know, our team are our biggest assets. So, you know, looking after them, nurturing them is really crucial and key to the success of Target. So culture has been something that we've been, you know, really passionate about over the years and, you know, quite proud of. But again, you know, we appreciate that we can't just sort of sit on our laurels. It's something we have to continually review. And so in the more recent years, we've looked at our values as a team. We've explored the kind of behaviours that we expect from each other as part of that. We've also looked at our engagement levels, so introduced engagement surveys and implemented a wellbeing program as well as part of that. And that kind of links to flexible working as well, which is also encouraged too. So there's a number of kind of different elements there as part of that, really.
And just talk on.
No, you carry on.
So, no, I was just going to actually say, you made the point about linked. I think I'm just going to pop back a square, because if you look back at the top here, you'll see a couple of items that are linked across. So, you know, I think what we envisage is that in all of the areas, there'll be things that businesses are doing in certain themes that fit with others as well. And as you say, we've got examples here in terms of the sort of the apprenticeships and also your career talking as well. And just to pick up on another point, because I know we haven't got much time, so we'll flick through them. We can always come back. But talking before this, you know, you were saying before about challenges, and I think what we're great believers in is transparency and honesty. And you know, some of this stuff isn't easy necessarily. And so you know, you talked about inclusivity and diversity, the one that's at the bottom, and do you want to talk a little bit about that? Because there's some, you know, it's important, but there are challenges, aren't there?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's something we're very aware of, and I think the PR profession as a whole, you know, recognises the challenges there too, and there's certainly lots of work that they're doing around that. So it's something that we're keen to learn more of. I think it's great that there's so much resource out there. I mean, even through the B4 network, I know there's the stuff that we can gather and glean from the network and the community that's a part of it. So that one is really work in progress. I think it's something to be, you know, we're very aware of, but it's something to work on.
Yeah, and I think that's interesting, really. You mentioned the B4 network. I think that's the thing that we're keen on. It's been really fascinating, I think, if you look at the last couple of years and the content and the themes of the events and activities. I mean, you only have to look at today. If you look at the sorts of things that are being talked about today, and actually I'll pick up on something Sarah Jordan said earlier from Your Underwear, you know, I think we certainly hope, don't we, that fairly soon we won't even be talking about this. This will just be the way you run your business. And if you don't run your business like this, you won't be in business. It won't be you. So, okay, so moving on to the next one then, so marketplace. And just to explain, I'll just, before we start each one, I'll talk a little bit about the name we're giving it. you could pick up any word really, but people's fairly obvious. It could be about workforce, but it's about those people in your organisation. Marketplace, this is about the way in which businesses can trade, both up and down the supply chain, and how it can be used really to have some powerful impact. So, yeah, and in fact, this is something that's quite integral to your business anyway, isn't it, Sam?
Yeah, so we've actually articulated our purpose, so which is to support organisations to be a force of good. So as part of that, that's in our business plan, and we've set objectives alongside that. And one of the ways that we'll measure that is obviously to get feedback from our clients in terms of their inputs and impacts as well. That, I suppose, is why it's in the slightly blue colour, is because it's work in progress. It's quite a challenge for us to get that information from some of our clients. For some clients that's easier because they're already doing various kind of reporting around ESG. For others, it's something that they haven't even thought of yet. So it's something that we're working on.
It's an interesting point, actually, Sam, because, as you know, I sort of get involved in this in my day job as well as sort of some of my volunteering time as well. And I know they don't mind me saying it because they're sort of quite proud of it. But the University of Oxford, for instance, is looking at their supply chain and looking at how they can add social value. And for those that might not be aware, there's a thing called the Social Value Act. It's been around for quite a few years now, but it obligates anyone spending public money to consider the social value that could be added through that contract over and above whatever the contract is for. Now, that's a very simple summary, but that's a general principle. Now, interestingly, it's taken time, and there are some good examples, but that is really gaining traction now. And the reason I'm saying all of this is, for people watching this, it could be relatively small businesses. They might say, well, we haven't got customers that are asking us those questions, or we don't deal with those big organisations like the university or the councils. But what's going to be coming, I promise you, and this is why, you can look at it two ways. If you're not being asked now, you will be asked about what your business is doing to have a positive impact. And also, really, if you start to work on this before you're asked, it actually gives you the opportunity to differentiate yourself and put you ahead of the game in terms of winning contracts further down the line, because more and more people will be using their supply chain to be able to measure the impact of the money that's going through the business. So, yeah, and as you say, you're also working through, your role on The Real Meaning of Business, I suppose, is part of that whole influencing, isn't it?
Yeah, I hope so, in terms of helping to educate and inspire others. We're also very well connected in Cheltenham as well, where the office is. So my colleague Sarah sits on a local forum that's around CSR. And I suppose through my MBA that I did as well. So I did a research project that was all around purpose. So, hoping to use that as well to, again, just inspire more people to build a better business.
Good. Okay, so moving swiftly on to the next one, environment.
Yeah, so here I think we've probably done bits and pieces, if I'm really honest, a bit of recycling here and there, and think about car sharing and reducing fuel consumption and that kind of thing, but not done enough. And actually, we're really heartened to hear that we had access to some valuable free support from the local growth hub. So they are helping us to look at our carbon footprint and how we can reduce that, and then put a plan in place that we can actually monitor and review it as well. So yeah, that's been really invaluable.
And I think that's something that's really important, is that there's a lot of activity in this space now as well, particularly actually environment. And we've got organisations like Bioregional, Oxfordshire Green Tech. There's a whole network, and there's government are spending money to really help businesses. A lot of them want to become carbon neutral, for instance. So it's great, as you say, it's great to see that there's extra support out there. So if you don't know where to start, then certainly the local enterprise partnership and others are really helpful. But the bottom point there is an interesting one as well, Sam, isn't it?
Yeah. How far do we take this in terms of where does the responsibility end? We can think about, we can encourage our team to do this. So we encourage suppliers, but actually it could go on and on and on, couldn't it? So I think that's something that, again, that's something for us to consider and to work on.
Yeah, and again, that's been a theme for today. Really, is quite a lot around this and how people can start thinking differently. I saw a bit of the one with Frank and Kate as well talking about it. Okay, so moving on to the next in terms of governance, and really just for clarification, what we're talking about here is effectively, I suppose, how you run and manage the business. You know, it could be about ownership. There's more and more organisations. In fact, recently, I think there was an announcement of a local law firm that was now employee owned, and we've got a few in the county that are employee owned. But you know, even if it's not about employee ownership, it's about the ways in which staff are perhaps having a say in the business, or the way in which you're reporting. You talked before, Sam, about the way you're looking to benchmark and manage and report, and perhaps the sort of transparency of it all. I mean, as a B Corp's absolutely embedding their articles of association commitments to these things. So it's that sort of area we're talking about, to give it context. So yeah, what would you say about that?
You know, this is an area I have to confess I struggle with a little bit. I think at Target as an organisation, we're fortunate that we're owned by our shareholders, directors, so there's myself and 3 others. We've always operated, I think, really diligently. We have a great kind of open relationship with our team where we regularly report, and we have weekly meetings and monthly feedback as well. And we have these kind of team away days where we encourage the team, you know, like I talked about at the beginning, really, to help shape the future direction of the business as well. So it's a real collaboration. I think there's probably, again, more that we can be doing here. And, you know, in terms of reporting on it as well, you know, are we doing everything we should? I don't think so. But, you know, that's this is all about learning, isn't it? Well,
again, and what we're hoping, you know, if we can build different examples of this with other B4 members, you know, and it's probably, we'll say it at the end, but, you know, we would encourage any B4 members that want to talk about what they're doing already to take part in one of the regular sessions. But back to your point, I mean, I'd like to think it's the sort of thing that we can learn from other businesses in terms of what they're doing. So, you know, fellow B4 members might want to adopt some ideas. Yeah, okay, moving on then. So community, it's probably the thing that people think of first and foremost when it comes to this sort of stuff. But
yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So what do? Yeah, quite a bit going on here then. And again, as you said before, there's some linked to the people stuff. But yeah, do you want to talk us through this?
I suppose it falls into 2 sort of areas really. So in terms of kind of charity and local causes. So Target has always had a nominated local charity that we support, whether that's a year or 2 years. Currently, it's a charity called Hope for Tomorrow. We had our annual golf day for them last week that was really successful. So we do fundraising elements for them, but we also do pro bono support as well as part of that. So that's something we feel, you know, pretty passionate about. And as I say, we've done for years and years and years. I think what we need to work on there is highlighted in the blue, is how we make that more mutually beneficial, you know, in terms of perhaps even more sort of meaningful that relationship. So that's something for us to look at. And then the other side really is the business kind of side of it. And I've already sort of alluded to the fact that, you know, we've been in Cheltenham for more than 40 years. So we're really well connected there in terms of the business network, and very active, particularly my colleague Sarah as well. And obviously starting to do more of that now, thankfully through B4 in Oxfordshire. And that's, you know, it's just about sharing it, you know, isn't it? Ideas and expertise, and building those networks really more and more and more.
Yeah, you make a good point, because again, you know, in terms of community engagement, a lot of people think of that in terms of sort of social stuff or charities, which is absolutely right, and there's some great examples going on. But you're quite right, you know, it's about supporting the business community as well, and what businesses are doing to inspire and support each other as well. And actually going back to that mutually beneficial collaboration, that's something I feel passionately about, Sam, in being in this space for quite some time. You know, I think sometimes charities don't understand the value that they can offer businesses. It's not just about businesses doing stuff for charities. And I have to say, you know, through the Nexus program underneath B4, and a couple of us are doing some work on that. There's some good stuff going on already, but I think we'll see even more. And again, just to reference it, as we said before, you know, that sort of the apprenticeship and work experience stuff and careers evening. So whilst that's great for the staff to be involved in that, you're also supporting local communities as well. So
yeah.
Okay, so final. Oh no, we've done that.
We're done.
Are we there? We are there. So if we just take a final look at this, so yeah, I think as far as those watching are concerned, I think it's really important that we just wanted to illustrate the way we're thinking and really trying to help give business a bit of structure and a bit of a framework that they can start thinking about. What we're hoping for is that we'll work with others on this to really sort of try to put some meat on the bones for individual businesses, and it'll hopefully help them think about ways in which they can develop their businesses generally.